Halves, Part 3 by Jeff Simpson, MasteryLearningSystems.com. In this video, you'll learn about finding half of odd numbers. It helps if you know how to count by halves. Here is a picture of 1/2, and here are 2 halves. This is how to write 1/2. This is how to write 2 halves. Here are some more halves. There's 1/2, 2 halves. Notice that the number on top tells how many halves. 3 halves, 4 halves, 5 halves, 6 halves, 7 halves, 8 halves, 9 halves, and 10 halves. Here's another way to look at it. There's 1/2. Notice the next one is turned around the other way. That's 2 halves. 3 halves, 4 halves, 5 halves, 6 halves, 7 halves, 8 halves, 9 halves, and 10 halves. 2 halves is the same as 1 whole cookie. 4 halves is the same as 2 whole cookies. 6 halves is the same as 3 whole cookies. 8 halves, you can count them in the box, 2, 4, 6, 8. 8 halves is the same as 4 whole cookies. And 10 halves is the same as 5 whole cookies. Here is another way to count by halves. Study the pictures and numbers that are coming up. First, we see a picture of 1/2. Now, if you add a half to that, you get 1. Add a half to that, 1 and a half. So far, counting by halves, it's 1/2, 1, 1 and a half, 2, 2 and a half, 3, 3 and a half, 4, 4 and a half, 5, 5 and a half, 6, 6 and a half, 7, 7 and a half, 8, 8 and a half, 9, 9 and a half, 10. Now, you have to be careful how you say these. Here you see a picture of 3 cookies and a half. Or you can leave off the word cookies and just say 3 and a half. And that's how you write it, 3 and a half. On the right, you see 3 halves, 1, 2, 3 of them. You could call it 3 half cookies or just 3 halves. And you write it with the 3/2, 3 halves. The next picture shows 2 whole cookies, 2 cookies and a half, or for short, 2 and a half, written like that, 2 and a half. Now on the right, 2 halves. That's 2 half cookies, or just 2 halves. And that's how you write it. Look at the next picture. 1 cookie and a half. 1 and a half. Or you could say 1 and 1/2. And you write it like that, 1 and 1/2. On the right, you see just a half, or 1/2. 1/2 cookie, 1/2, a half. You write it like that with the 1 on the top. Now, let's look into this a little bit more. You see a picture of 1 and a half, or you could say 1 and 1/2, and write it like that, 1 and 1/2. And here we have 1/2, also called just a half. Can you call it 1 1/2? No. It's not 1 1/2, it's just 1/2. Okay, counting by halves to 10. Can you say the answer before the solution appears on the screen? We're going to start with a half, and then 1, 1 1/2, and so on. Here goes. Okay, were you able to say the numbers before they showed up on the screen? Now something new. What you know about even numbers will help you figure out what half of an odd number is. We'll look at some examples. As you saw in the Halves Part 2 video, when you have an even number of pennies, every penny has a partner. Like in the picture below here, you can see each penny has a partner, one on the left, one on the right. The even number of pennies can be divided into 2 equal groups. And this is 6 pennies, which is an even number. The 2 groups can be separated, 3 on this side and 3 on that side. Half of the pennies are on one side and half are on the other side. Now, you count how many pennies are in one of the groups, and that's how you figure out what half of the pennies is. 3 is half of 6, or you can say it the other way around. Half of 6 is 3. But when you have an odd number of pennies, the last penny down at the bottom in this picture does not have a partner. There are 5 pennies altogether. That's an odd number. The odd number of pennies cannot be divided into 2 equal groups. If you separate the groups, there will be more on one side than on the other. There's 3 on this side, but only 2 on that side. It is not true that half of the pennies are on one side and half are on the other side. If you tried to divide 5 cookies between 2 people so that each person gets half of the cookies, there's going to be a problem. If one person gets 3 and the other gets 2, it's not fair. Each person is not getting half of the cookies. If each person gets 2 cookies, 2 for this person, 2 for that person, there's still 1 cookie to take care of. To divide 5 cookies between 2 people so that each person gets a fair share, you must also divide the cookie in the middle. Watch what happens. We take that 1 cookie, cut it in half, and then we start moving them so that each person gets a half a cookie plus the other 2, so it's 2 1/2. So when you divide 5 cookies between 2 people, each person gets 2 1/2 cookies. You can also say 2 1/2. Half of 5 is 2 1/2. Let's take a look at some other odd numbers. Here's 1 pizza. 1 is an odd number. How can you divide 1 pizza between 2 people? Well, just cut it down the middle and give each person half a pizza. Half of 1 is 1/2. Here are 3 cookies. 3 is an odd number. How can you divide 3 cookies between 2 people? First, give each person 1 cookie, but there is still 1 cookie that they have not divided yet. Just cut it down the middle and give each person half a cookie. Now each person has 1½ cookies. Half of 3 is 1½ 7 is an odd number. What is half of 7? Now, here's where you can use what you know about the even numbers that are nearby to figure it out. For example, we're thinking about 7, but 6 is an even number. 8 is also an even number. And 7 is between them. 7 is between 6 and 8. Let's look at 6. Well, half of 6 is 3. And 8, half of 8 is 4. Now let's think about 7. Half of 7, 3½ Did you figure that one out by yourself? Look for the pattern on this page. First problem we see here is half of 1, which is a half. Half of 2, 1. Half of 3, 1½ Half of 4 is 2. Half of 5, 2½ Now, stop the video and study this page, then go to the next page to test your knowledge. Test your knowledge. Number 1. Can you say the answer before the solution appears on the screen? First problem, half of 2. Half of 4. Good. Let's look for some more. Half of 4. Stop this video and study the page, then go to the next page to test your knowledge when you're ready. Okay, test your knowledge. Number 2. Can you say the answer before the solution appears on the screen? Here comes the first problem, which is half of 4. Here's another one. Okay. Now let's think about some other numbers. What is half of 9? Well, we could start with what we know about half of 8. Half of 8 is 4. 10 is nearby. That's also an even number. We know that half of 10 is 5. Now we can figure out what half of 9 is. Look at that one cookie down at the bottom by itself, does not have a partner. That one is going to be cut in half. Half of 9 is 4½ Try another one. What's half of 11? 11 is an odd number. 10 is a nearby number, it's even, that we know something about. And notice 11 is between 10 and 12. It's bigger than 10, smaller than 12. 10 we know is an even number, and half of 10 is 5. 12 is also an even number. Half of 12 is 6. 11, the odd number in between. What's half of 11? Well, it's going to be more than 5. Less than 6, what number could it be? 5½ Now it's time to study again. Look for the pattern on this page. Half of 8, half of 9, half of 10, half of 11, half of 12. Now stop the video, study this page, then go on to the next page to test your knowledge when you're ready. Here we go with test your knowledge number 3. First problem, half of 8. Here comes the next one. I hope you did well. If they're hard for you, well, you can go back and review and practice some more. But now, let's go ahead, learn some new ones. Half of 13. Well, it's more than 12, less than 14. We know something about 12. It's an even number, and we know what half of 12 is from our previous learning. That's 6. 14 is also an even number, and half of that is 7. 13 now is an odd number. We want to know what's half of 13. Well, it's got to be more than 6. It has to be less than 7. It is 6.5. Here's one more new one. What is half of 15? We use what we know about 14 and 16. 14 is an even number. Half of it is 7. 16 is an even number. Half of it is 8. 15 is an odd number. It has to be more than 7, less than 8. It's got to be 7.5. Okay, time to look for more patterns. Half of 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Stop the video and study this page if you need to. Then go to the next page when you're ready to test your knowledge. This is test your knowledge number 4. Let's see how quickly you can say the answers. First problem, half of 12. That's 6. Okay, we're going to learn 2 more new ones. What is half of 17? Well, we'll use what we know about 16 and 18. 16 is even, of course. Half of 16 is 8. 18 is even. Half of that is 9. Now, 17, the odd number in between, we want to know what's half of 17. 8.5. And one last new one. What is half of 19? Well, not surprisingly, we'll use what you know about 18 and 20. What's half of 18? 9. What's half of 20? 10. So then, what is half of 19? 9.5. Did you get it? Let's study more patterns. Half of 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Stop the video, study this page if you need to, then go to the next page to test your knowledge when you're ready. Test your knowledge number 5. First problem, what's half of 16? 8. Silently, you can see the next one's coming up. Good. Now we've seen all the pictures that show how to understand this, but we should also understand how to do the math. Here's how to do the math for dividing 5 cookies between 2 people. You see the 5 cookies there, 2 people. So we divide 5 by 2. To divide 5 by 2, we usually ask 2 goes into 5, how many times? Well, there is no number that fits this situation exactly. 2 is the closest you can get, so write a 2 on top. Then multiply around the corner. 2 times 2 is 4, so you write a 4 on the bottom, like that. Then you subtract 5 minus 4, which of course is 1. You put a 1 down below. Then take the remainder 1 from the bottom and write it up on top with a bar under it, like that. And last, take the divisor, 2, that's how many 2's in 5, that's the divisor, and finish writing the fraction by putting the 2 on the bottom. And that's how you do the math to show that half of 5 is 2.5. Here's another example showing the math for finding half of 19. Well, you're going to divide it, and divide it by 2, of course, just like 2 people are going to each get half. You always divide by 2. Well, 9 is as close as you can get. You multiply around the corner. 2 times 9, or 9 times 2, is 18. Then you subtract it. 19 minus 18, there's 1 left. It's a remainder of 1. We write that remainder up on the top, and we take the divisor 2, put it on the bottom, and we can see half of 19 is 9.5. Time to test your knowledge again. What's half of 13? There's your answer. Half of 7. Half of 1. Half of 15. 9. 3. 17. 11. 5. 19. There's still more to know about halves, but this is enough for part 3. You can learn more about halves in ways that make sense in my book, Fractions and Decimals, which is available online at masterylearningsystems.com. Please share these ideas with other people who can benefit from them. And thanks for watching.